Hello and welcome to Recovery for Life. I'm Chris Howard, peer counselor at Midtown Health Wellness in New York City and Indigo Recovery, and host of this weekly podcast where we discuss addiction and recovery and anything else that comes to mind. Peer, of course, meaning equal, meaning we're all on a level playing field, which means I'm in recovery myself. As of this past January, I've got 10 years clean and sober. I should note that it took me 18 years to get here. Relapse isn't required, but certainly isn't uncommon. Before we get going, it's important to mention that I am not a doctor, and we are not here to dispense medical advice. We also do not advocate any particular course of treatment. Please speak with your physician regarding issues related to your specific medication or treatment plan. If you don't have a program and would like to discuss options, you can find Midtown Health and Wellness at nyc-doctor.com. This series of podcasts is essentially our group discussions on tape. The four others joining me are all part of the Suboxone program at Midtown Health, so one of our recurring topics will be everyone's personal feelings about medication-assisted recovery. The focus will not be so much on our past, our addictions, but how we're navigating our individual paths toward physical and emotional health. Putting down the substance is the first step. What happens next is recovery. We have a new member today who we're just getting to know and who's going to share his story with us. Owen is new to us, but far from a stranger to recovery, with, I think, 10 years clean and sober, if I'm not mistaken, right? Is that true?
That's right.
Okay, cool. But before turning the spotlight on Owen, I'm going to virtually pass the mic and give everyone a few minutes to check in. So who wants to lead us off? How about Amy? You want to say hello?
Sure. I'm Amy. I've been with Indigo Recovery now for Midtown for about 3 years, and I have my sister in, and I'm having a blast. I ain't even playing. I've had an awesome 2 weeks, and she did have a heart attack at the beginning of the vacation when she's visiting her daughter, but we've got her. She's recuperating and she's doing well. And so we've just been out at the pool and just chilling and hanging out. Yeah, that's been my week. And then my husband listening to his flick shots, but it's all good.
Glad you're doing okay. I'm glad your sister's okay. Glad your sister's okay.
Thank you.
It's good to see you. John, you're up.
Hello, everybody. This is John. I've been with the Indigo Recovery or Midtown Health and Wellness for over 3 years, part of the Suboxone program. I am almost 2 years sober now. I'm going to be receiving my last Suboxone shot within the next 2 weeks. And I've been strategizing and coming up with a plan to continue my recovery and to stay sober with all my counselors and psychiatrists at are we calling it Indigo Recovery or is it Midtown Health Wellness?
It's both. We're kind of doing the crossover is what I'm doing.
All right. Well, the hybrid of Indigo Recovery and Midtown Health and Wellness. Yeah, I mean, it's super exciting. This is the longest period of time I've ever had in sobriety, and I feel great. And I'm super happy to be coming up on this 2-year anniversary and coming off of a Suboxone. You know, I put a lot of work in over the past 2 years and made it a lot of progress, and I'm particularly proud of. And I'm glad I'm here to share my experience with y'all and just be part of the journey. Yeah, other than that, I'm doing pretty well.
Well, thanks. Audrey, your turn.
Hi, it's Audrey. I've been part of Indigo / Midtown Health and Wellness for, I feel like it's been like 3 years. I don't know. I'm really bad at years and time. But yeah, so lately I've been pretty good. Just been like trying to make some moves on my career path and haven't like backed down from looking for different career options. And I'm a little fuzzy today because I took a Benadryl last night because I was having sleep paralysis. And that is no fun. It's like an narcolepsy thing, the sleep paralysis. But yeah, little fuzzy, but still here. And I'm in a good mood. I've been in a good mood for a few weeks now. I don't know. I can go up and down between a good mood and just like feeling depressed. So I've been doing pretty well lately. So that's good.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I know that feeling of going back and forth. Sweet, feeling good. And, what am I doing? What's going on here? I'm good too. I mean, it sounds like everybody's in a good mood today. It's great. Everybody's up. Very cool. I'm good too. I had a good week. Nothing, absolutely nothing to complain about. I don't think. No, nothing to complain about. Everything's cool. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad we're reconvening and see all of you. And I think I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Owen and let him just do whatever comes to mind. So you're up, man. Go for it.
Okay, sure. So I figure I'd just kind of tell my story of how I got to where I am, basically. I grew up in a very restrictive religion, and it was a very bad experience for me. So after turning, 18, I was 18 on my 18th birthday. I was kicked out of the religion for having a girlfriend and shunned by my whole family. It was a very negative experience, to say the least. So I knew this girl from high school. I asked her if I could stay with her. So I kind of snuck in her bedroom window and lived in her house with her without her family knowing for like 3 weeks because I had nowhere else to go. Eventually, I ended up marrying her and having a kid with her. And that was where the addiction really started for me. It was my first experience being outside of the religion with no really guardrails on it. I think she kind of pushed me and herself into questionable situations with drug use. And we ended up getting into harder and harder stuff as time went on. Eventually, after our kid was born, that's when we really dove in head first, and it got terribly ugly, as I'm sure pretty much everybody here and probably everybody listening right now understands. But as time went on, things got worse and worse and more difficult. And strangely, it came to the point for me where I was just looking for an opportunity to get out of it. I just wanted to be free of it. I was looking for the first chance to get out, and I realized I was only continuing that path because I had to. I didn't want to be sick. This was 2009, I think. After a couple years of addiction, it was about 2009 when I for the first time, heard the name Suboxone. So I found, I think it was like my brother-in-law at the time, like my wife's brother, came across some. I had never heard of it before, and he offered it to me. And I realized I didn't have to wake up, find money, find substances, go to sleep. Wake up, find money, find substances, go to sleep anymore. For the first time in years, I finally had the opportunity to just live my life because I wasn't going to be sick the next day. So instead of spending $40, $80, $100 a day to keep myself sick, I found an opportunity to spend $5 a day to just be normal. And from that moment on, that was the moment when I realized that I was completely done with addiction. I wanted absolutely nothing to do with it anymore. And I started to kind of come out of a haze almost, started to realize just how destructive the previous few years had been to my life. I mean, it's almost like looking back at that period it's almost like a blank in my memory. It's like it's all dark and gray and just patches are missing. It's hard to remember a lot of it after coming out of basically being sick for 2 years straight like that. So I feel very comfortable saying that Suboxone completely saved my life and turned me from somebody who was effectively a drain on society, a drain on myself and the people around me. No mental health to speak of at that point, turned me into somebody who is a contributing member of society and functioning for the first time in my life. You know, when I first got into this, I was like 18 years old. I never had a chance to fully experience just normal life without the search, without having to worry about finding the drugs or tricking people into getting money from them or any of that stuff. I never had a chance to experience life just working a normal job and living and spending money on like a movie ticket or spending money on gas without worrying that I won't have enough to get drugs later or any of that stuff. I never had a chance to do that because by the time I turned 18, that's when I really dove into it. So when I was about 21 years old, I was finally digging myself out of this hole. I wrote up a resume because I had been programming. I'd been writing code since I was a little kid. You know, I was like 9 years old when I wrote my first program. So I wrote up a resume that was hopefully going to get me into a software job because that, you know, I lived in West Virginia at the time. Everything there was a dead end. There was no work to speak of. There's nothing to do. It was either drugs or move. That was about it. So I wrote up a resume that reflected my software experience or what little software experience I had. I passed it around all over the country. I finally found a job in Tampa, Florida, a software job, server administration. And that was the first job that I really had after getting clean. That was kind of where my life started, I guess, pulling itself back together. It has been an uphill battle the entire way. But I can tell you this, after getting clean, even the most mundane, basic, boring things have a silver lining on them. Like going to work every day as an addict. I worked at Lowe's. I worked at Burger King. I worked at a few other fast food restaurants, IHOP and stuff. It was like I would do absolutely anything to not have to walk into that building one more day. But after getting clean, I feel like even going to that job had its silver lining. Even walking into the kitchen at Burger King to make burgers had its silver lining because the money that I made from that experience wasn't going to go into my arm. It wasn't going to be burned up. It was actually going into living and enjoying my life for the first time. So I think that's probably where I really started living my life. I was about 21 years old. As time went on, I ended up moving back to West Virginia, still determined to be clean. I think I was about 23 years old, roughly, at that point. This was 2015, I think, at 23 when I moved back to West Virginia. And I did successfully stay clean. After that, after moving back to West Virginia, like I said, there's absolutely nothing there, no entertainment, no opportunities of any sort. But I remembered what it was like to be sick constantly and to lie to people constantly, to trick them, to manipulate them, to do whatever it took to get what I wanted. I never intended to or wanted to go back to that place in my life ever again. And I successfully avoided it since 2015 when I moved back to West Virginia. Luckily, because relapse, as you said earlier, is not a requirement, but commonly part of the experience. I did relapse shortly after getting clean. a couple of times, but never again after moving back to West Virginia, luckily. So a few years passed. I decided to start a YouTube channel just because why not? And I was still working in software. A brand new software company had formed around that time. So I put in my application, got the job, worked at that new software company for a couple of years. It was fantastic until the point at which my YouTube channel started taking off. I quit the job there, started doing YouTube full time, moved to New York City, and here I am. So that's my story.
That sounds like a success story to me. And I could tell you, yeah, go ahead, Amy, go for it.
I just can't stand it. Okay, so did you ever talk to your family again?
Well, no. Some of my family members left that group also.
Right.
My mom is still in the group and still will not talk to me to this day.
Oh my goodness.
I do have 2 brothers and a sister, and my dad all left the group. And did talk to me, although my dad died recently, but yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
This is just so amazing. I grew up in Pikeville, Kentucky, so I wasn't far from you.
Right.
You don't even sound like you're from that part of the world.
Yeah,
okay.
I was actually born in Connecticut and moved to West Virginia when I was 8. That's why, yeah.
Yeah, I was born in Georgia and moved. That's same with me.
Right.
Okay, so I liked how you described. This was just a really good story because the way you described it, you said 2 years of being sick. So you knew you had an illness. That's the good thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Because some people just think addicts are just pieces of shit, and they ain't worth crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's extremely important that people realize that this is not normal, nor is it your fault. You can find your way out of this if you just put the effort in. You can do it. Right?
That's right. Exactly. And I'm so glad you stumbled upon Suboxone like I did. I stumbled upon it. And same thing. It's just all of our stories are a lot alike,
They are. Yeah. I also, interestingly, I forgot to put this little detail in and then you can continue. When I moved back to West Virginia, there was a period of about 2 years when there wasn't any work. So I went to college to be a substance abuse counselor. So I got a 2-year psychology degree in substance abuse counseling.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Man, you used your time wisely.
Right.
For real. Because there is no work up there. I'm here to tell you there's no work up there.
Right.
And you said that you never had a chance to live a normal life prior to that. I got that because every penny me and my husband at the time went into pills or some kind of drug.
Yep.
But anyway, and I'm so glad that you find the silver linings in any little thing now because it does make you humble. Being a drug addict humbles your butt.
Oh, yeah.
It really does. And I'm just glad. I'm just very glad to have you here, Owen. And I'm so glad I got to hear your story.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. You do not realize what you're willing to do and how far reality will fall until you're there in addiction.
Right. That's so true.
It is very true.
Yeah.
Like I would always say, this is John, I would always be like, oh, I would never do that. And then I would do that, right? Like I would never do dope. I would just,
right.
And then, like ODing, that would never happen to me. And then it happened to me, right? So,
yeah.
And I related to a lot of the story, and thank you so much for sharing, Owen. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
What you had said really resonated with me. There's 2 things in particular. The sickness, the perpetual sickness and chasing drugs, the relief Suboxone and Sublocade had given me. I agree wholeheartedly with you that it is life-saving, but in a capacity where, for me at least, it was a tool for me to be to establish my sobriety, right? Like, and put the work in. Like, I actually had like mental health issues, depression, anxiety, PTSD. I had to address all those issues. And but the other thing was, I guess just, missing. But when I first became an addict, I was about 18, and I'm going on 35 in November. I wish I, I could sit here and say, I wish I had stopped earlier, but you know what? I wouldn't trade any of the things I went through, for the world. It made me who I am today, but,
that's right.
Yeah, exactly. But, on the other hand, it's like,
we wish we had that time back.
Yeah. 15 years of my life of addiction is a lot. It's just too much.
At least you got out sooner, than I did. So
yeah.
When I was in West Virginia, I actually knew this pair of women. It was my wife's grandmother and aunt, and they were, I think, 60 and 78 respectively, and they were still using the needle, like actively every single day using the needle. Seriously. Yes, wow. Really. 80-year-old woman. This is where we all could have been. I mean, it's not out the realm of possibility,
You're right. You're right, Owen. You're right.
Yeah.
We could have wasted our whole lives, So I'm proud of us. I will always be proud of us.
No time to quit like the present.
That's right.
Owen. Right. Thank you for sharing everything. Thank you for sharing, Owen. I feel like I could relate to little bits of your story. I think we have like a similar timeline also. Like I was using from like age 18 to like age 22 or 23, I think. But I can relate to like the feeling of like just thinking about how you're going to get the drugs and like spending so much time ruminating on how you're going to get drugs and how you're not going to get sick, and like, just making that your full-time job and putting little effort into anything else. And then like, also like putting gas money in your car and being like, oh, am I going to have enough to spend on drugs? Like everything you spend, you're constantly thinking about how you're going to get drugs, basically. And it does like take over your life. And at a certain point, like, I'm really glad that you realize quickly that it was taking over your life and something had to change. And I also like stumbled upon Suboxone in a similar way. Like a dealer of a dealer I knew had it. And then I was like, well, I can't get this from drug dealers. I need a licensed professional. So, it just made me feel normal. Suboxone did, brought like a sense of normalcy into my life, but also made me realize that I have, like John said, like it's a tool in your tool belt, and you can use it to get stable, but then it gives you the opportunity to work on everything else in your life. So
yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate you sharing everything.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate that too. I was just thinking, like, this is probably a controversial take. Not everybody agrees with it, but I think Suboxone should be passed out like candy on street corners practically. Like, it should be available to anybody who wants it under any conditions, I feel like, obviously, I understand the need for regulation, so maybe not literally, but if you walk into a doctor's office, tell them you want it, it should just be written out immediately. It should be easy to get because it saves their life. Say again?
I said, amen, brother, for real.
Right. It's important that people have access to this tool because there is no limit to the amount of lives that it could save, basically.
And they make it so hard here in Virginia and Kentucky and West Virginia. They make it so freaking hard.
And expensive, too.
Yes,
I remember
it costs me $250 a month to get, but now they're paying for my medicine, thank God. Right. But before that, I paid $800 a month with medicine and the doctor.
Yep. Exact same with me. I was in West Virginia I guess this was somewhere around 2012, probably 2011 or 12. I found a doctor in the area. The doctor cost $700 a month. And then the medicine cost an additional $800 a month. It was crazy.
Isn't it?
10 years ago, but still $1,500 a month, basically.
That's
just to
freaking
stay clean.
The crazy. That's just,
well, you
that's
have
just
to
not
kind
right.
of compare that to what you spent to be high too.
Right.
So there's a little bit of a comparison there.
It
It is better now, and I think it should be available to anybody who needs it, but it does need some sort of regulation, because there are, like when you're transitioning, there's a moment there where you could be really sick from that, and there are some obviously some idiosyncrasies that need to be addressed, but I agree with you. I mean, it's saved a lot of lives, and it's going to save a lot more, I think.
And they're making it easier now. This was back in the day.
Yeah.
But I think I would like to, just chime in here. And I really appreciate, Owen, you coming in and talking to us. And I appreciate your humility and your enormous gratitude for what you've got now and being clean. And, what really struck me, that moment you were talking about when you were walking into the Burger King kitchen and just appreciating not being sick, being able to go to work and keep your money. And, I remember that moment, and my first sober job was pretty menial. I'm not going to go into it, but I was 53 when I got that job.
Right.
I was no spring chicken. And I had businesses. I had, I don't know whether you would call it success, but I made a living. I supported my family. And I did that for years and years and years. And when I got sober, I had to start from zero. And I had to walk to this place, which it was a miserable job. It was just awful. And I couldn't even take public transportation because I couldn't afford it. So I had to walk, rain or shine or snow or whatever it was. And, but I was very grateful to be able to go there and not say, I can't do this another day. I'm not going to make it. I can't walk in that door another day. And, I learned humility and gratitude in that moment because I never had that before. And so I really appreciate you bringing that up. It sounds like it was, quite a childhood, and, walking away from family is difficult. But if you need to do that for your own mental health, you have to do it. There are things that we have to do in our lives that aren't pretty. But in order for us to be healthy, we need to do some of these certain things, like getting clean, doing this. There are a lot of different things we go through. Recovery, like Audrey and John both said, is way more than, taking a medication. There are a lot of things we have to address along the way, which we do, all of us here and many others that we speak with, and the others who aren't here today as well. Recovery involves so many different things. It really does. And, it's not just about the recovery from addiction. It's about all of the things, like John said, we have to address that were there before. The addiction is sometimes called a symptom of the disease and not the disease itself. And then once we get into recovery, we have all of those things to address too.
Will you say that again, please?
Which part?
The addiction is part of the disease.
The addiction is a symptom of the disease.
Got you. Addiction. Okay. Symptom, not the disease itself, right?
Well, not necessarily. There are all kinds of other things that come along with it.
Got you.
That led us to that. We know there's a genetic component as well, but that's not everything. And that's no excuse.
No.
Right?
Can I just mention something?
Yes, please.
Relative, in regards to medically assisted treatment, I didn't happen to stumble across it. I realized I was getting sick at an early age, but before I was 19, and I went to a doctor and they prescribed me Suboxone when it was the stop signs. And I just feel like even then there was like a lack of like education and understanding of what this medication does.
Right.
I just feel like there should be a way where, or a better way where we can disseminate that information and have it be easily easily obtainable. So,
Yeah.
I just think that there's an education aspect to it, right? You can't really just jump into Suboxone. There's that, if you've just used, there's that chance of precipitated withdrawal. So there is some moving components to it, but it is really life-saving. And it's sad to hear that people happen to come across it on the streets, right? Like,
It is sad.
and I tend to agree with Owen that, it should be more readily accessible for, opiate addicts, right? Or whoever needs it. And, I struggled getting it for years and years and years. And even worse now, it's even harder to get Suboxone, which is the injectable form. Fortunately, I'm doing it for an extended period of time where I've established some type of routine, I guess, if you'd call it. But I don't know. I guess taking some of that out of the equation, the unknown, and making it an easier or more seamless process for people to get, I think we would see a lot.
And like
better,
you said,
better results.
more information on it, because a lot of people are ignorant of it.
Yeah, I mean, look at me, for example, right? Like, I'm going to be coming off of Suboxone next month, and I could hardly find any of. Yeah, I feel great, but the problem being is, like,
there's no information on it.
There's not a lot of information on, like, how to get off of it properly or anything like that, right? So, I'm kind of stepping into unknown territory, and I don't know. From what I've read that is available, and from the people I've spoken to who have gotten off of it, it sounds like I'll have minimal to no withdrawals at all. But
yeah, because this girl in one of my groups, she took Suboxone, and she's finished. She's been finished for 6 months now, and she still feels fine, she said. So I guess it's just each person's different,
Right. Yeah. I guess that was my point. Like, I guess it's a subjective thing, right? Like, so it's different for everybody, and therefore it should be treated as such. But I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up. I think the lack of information even when I became an addict, right? Like, I didn't even know what dope sick meant. I had to call my friend. I'm like, I feel like crap. What the hell is going on?
I didn't either. They're like, you're dope sick. I'm like, what is that?
And you're like, what?
Yeah, what's weird? I don't think that I had dope sickness originally. Like, when we started on OxyContin, my wife and I at the time, and we did some, we were hanging out for a couple of days, and then afterwards she was telling me how sick she was, and I wasn't sick, but
wow,
she had done some before we got together, a year or two before. She had done some of that before. It was my first time ever doing that. And I wondered if it was like the first time that you do it, either you don't feel the dope sickness or you don't notice it or what. I don't know. But eventually the next time I did it, that's when it really hit me like it's rock.
When you keep doing it. That's what I think.
Yeah, it was terrible.
That's what I think.
Absolute worst experience of my life. I feel like your brain is not designed to experience that type of pain or sadness that it brings you, The human brain isn't designed to experience that.
Can't handle it. I don't think it can handle it.
No, but we made it through, so that's a plus, right?
Hell yeah.
If you think about it, it's like when you're using, it's activating all of your opioid receptors and like giving you all this dopamine. So when you don't have it, your brain isn't used to having that. So it's like the opposite of all of these pleasurable feelings, like on the complete other end of the spectrum. Like, again, like isn't used to it.
Yeah,
what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was actually gonna say the same thing, Audrey. Like, when you take an opiate, it's releasing so much dopamine and endorphins in your brain that is an unnatural. It's unachievable in a natural way, and when you continue to do that, your body just stops producing the hormones and chemicals. And you get that tolerance.
It's dependent on that drug.
So when that synthetic drug is removed from the body, you go into withdrawals because your body doesn't know what to do. It's not producing the chemicals anymore. And I don't know. Before I overdosed those 2 times, from like 2017 to 2018, I was just perpetually sick. Like because it was all fentanyl I was doing at that time anyway. So I was just sick, like just
Ooh, I can imagine.
disgustingly sick all the time. And it is a full-time job to like figure out, all right, am I gonna have money to get I have to go drive to go get it? Am I gonna have enough money? Like, how sick am I gonna be? How long can I wait? It's just like,
yeah,
you got to do all these
full-time job.
Yeah, you got to do these mental gymnastics, and
and then you're freaking out, because you don't know if you're gonna be able to get it or not.
Right.
Your brain's freaking out.
Yeah, it's just a horrible experience, and I wouldn't wish it upon anybody, even my worst enemy. Like, seriously, like it's just that bad. I look at it now as just pure evil, and it's
the
just,
devil.
That's how I look at it, and I also look at it as a life or death situation. I mean, we're looking at fentanyl, right? Like, this is what's the most prevalent drug.
A little bitty teeny piece will kill you.
Yeah. I mean, like,
look what happened to you.
Yeah, I know, right?
I think if that happened, I think that was your second time was your wake up call.
It was.
It had to happen. It just had to happen.
100%. And I'm glad, I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be part of this group and hear Owen's story and everybody else's stories. Like that, I don't know.
I'm grateful, like you, for everything that I didn't used to be.
Right. That silver lining that Owen was talking about. I try to find that as well in everything I do. I mean, I can't live my life the way I used to, right? Like that was just insanity. I want to go forward in life and develop, and create good memories, right? Like, I mean, not everything's going to be perfect, right? But
right.
At least I can
deal with it.
Right.
Yeah, we've learned to deal with it. Yeah.
I have a question I'd like to pose to Owen, because
sure, lay it on me.
Through, and you don't have to answer this actually,
okay,
if you don't want to, but you had a child during that first marriage. So I'm wondering where your daughter was during all of this, and I know she's with you now. I happen to know that.
Yeah,
fact, but I'm just kind of curious because I had 3 kids. I have 3 that they suffered.
Right.
Because of my addictions.
Well, it was a complicated time. After she was born, her mom and I just, fell right into addiction together. It wasn't long before her mom and I started having like a rocky relationship. We were kind of on and off after about 3 months old. Her mom and I were on and off for that time. I was living anywhere I could, partly living with her grandparents, where I originally climbed in the window of her bedroom, when I was an 18-year-old. I was living there for a short time with them after she was born. And then there was another short time when I was living at my dad's house in the basement, but I had a very bad relationship with my dad. Not good. I mean, religion aside, he was just not a good person. So, I was kind of living anywhere I could, but my daughter always lived with me, always. She stayed with me the entire time. Unfortunately, during that time, from 0 to basically 2 years old, I was in the throes of addiction. So my daughter would stay where I was living. She would stay there with her great grandmother for a time, or I would drop her off with my mom for like a couple of hours while I was
That's good.
Things like that. But yeah, it was not a pretty time at all. Luckily, she doesn't remember any of that.
Thank God. Yeah.
But her mom, she was, like I said, she was in and out. We were in and out together. So eventually she was 1.5 to 2 years old, somewhere in there, before I finally got, completely clean. And she lived with me long-term permanently from that point on. And
Does
yeah,
she see your mom?
Not really. We moved from West Virginia to New York City. Of course.
Oh, okay. That's right. That's right.
But she does talk to her mom now, texts her and talks to her on the phone and things like that.
How old is she?
She is, let's see, she's 13 now. So 2009.
Wow.
Yeah. Time is flying by.
Right. The crazy thing is, what your family didn't know is when they pushed you out, they pushed you in straight to adulthood. I mean, straight to out of the nest into having a baby and getting married because you thought that was the right thing to do.
Yeah. And
that's what happened.
Yep. It got ugly as a result.
Yeah.
My family completely turned on their back on me like that. Not just my family, but my childhood friends, everybody I ever knew with or anything. I'd see them in the grocery store at Walmart. They would look in the eyes and then they would look away. They wouldn't even acknowledge my presence. It's crazy stuff.
City. That's city.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But like, what, if you don't mind me asking, what religion was it?
I don't mind you asking, although I don't want to turn away anybody who may be, having this similar experience.
Oh, okay.
But I was a Jehovah's Witness growing up.
Got you now.
Yeah.
I see.
Of course, there are no Jehovah's Witnesses that are current addicts. If if you become addicted to something, you're kicked out of the religion just like that. So
see, that's wild to me.
Yeah, not
that's when you need the religion.
Right. That's when you need community and family and,
right.
Yeah. So
that's wild. I didn't know that. That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. Not good. Well, so anyways, to summarize the answer, my daughter was with me for that time. It was a hard time, but eventually we got through it. My daughter's been with me ever since. So
I wanted to ask you.
That's really good to know.
What do you do on your YouTube channel? What's it about?
It's about religious groups being very destructive sometimes. It's about cults, mind control, manipulation,
wicked.
How they do it. Yeah, it's the psychology behind what people... it's the psychology behind how people are manipulated and controlled by these destructive organizations.
Right. Yeah. What's it under so I could look it up?
Yeah, I'll send you a message.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's the name of it.
Okay, awesome.
I don't know if you guys want me to put it in the podcast or not. I don't care either way.
It's entirely up to you.
Okay. Well, if anybody listening wants to check it out, it's Telltale Unfiltered, and Telltale Fireside Chat. 3 separate YouTube channels where I talk about that kind of thing. So,
and it's public. TELLTALE.
That's it.
I was saying it for the audience.
Oh, thanks.
I'm glad you found your way out of all that and found your way here and get to, to listen to all that. Your experience growing up, I think that, one of the things it does, there's so many different stories about how family handles addictions. The religious part aside, because that's a whole other story, but families are, the way they react, the different approaches. I mean, some people I hear, families did interventions and, they really wanted to save, the family member, whoever it was, father, mother, sibling, in my particular case, everybody looked the other way and said, go ahead and drive off the cliff. We don't care. And that happens too. And I don't blame anybody for that. I mean, it's just how people handle it. It's how they grew up. They didn't know how to deal with it. I mean, sometimes they don't know and they just look the other way. It's like the easiest thing to do is just ignore it and pretend it's not happening.
And see, my mom was what do you call that when you're dependent on somebody? Codependent.
Codependent. Right?
My mom helped me to get mine. If I was out, she would give me like, well, here, take some of mine. You know what I mean? She didn't realize I was a complete addict. She thought she was helping me and she wasn't. Yeah,
it's interesting to hear the stories because it's always different. I mean, all families treat these things so differently. And, sometimes I talk to other people's, family members And I get to hear the other side too. It's scary sometimes to have a family member who's an addict or even in recovery, because the trust goes away, and then we have to reestablish all of that. And there's a ton of things involved if we choose to even reconnect with our families. Right. Sometimes, like Owen said, maybe there are people you don't. Maybe it's healthier not to, and that's a tough thing to say, and it's a tough thing to talk about. But these things come up all the time because families aren't necessarily healthy all the time for us. Certain family members, some can be. I mean, I'm throwing this out there because it comes up a lot. It really does, and you brought it to light, right? In that you had to abandon your family for a while.
I had to do that. This is John. There was a period like after I got out of my last residential rehab stay, and I admitted myself to sober house. There was like about a year of time where I just kind of disconnected from my family so I can establish myself. And I figured, because nobody in my family understood addiction. Like there's no addicts in my family. So like, it was very hard for them to understand. I mean, they were supportive, but to an extent. So like I had to just get myself right. And then through my actions now, I've been able to establish a better relationship with them. Like, I slowly started reaching back out to them, and what else really helped was some accountability, like showing them like, clean P tests, having people, the third parties, like from Midtown Health and Wellness, people from Midtown Health and Wellness reach out to tell them like, listen, hey, your son's doing all right. Like, because, when they hear from me, what does it mean? So I don't know, like, I feel like I was able to like salvage my relationships with my family, but in the beginning, it just couldn't have any relationship with them whatsoever. It was kind of like that, but eventually it came through, and I'm happy that we're starting to build some trust again, which is nice. But family can definitely be a complication, or I don't know what you want to call it, but
like I say, it's all different. I mean, I think Audrey, you had a lot of support right when you were getting clean.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I told my mom about it, and I'm just so lucky that my parents were so understanding. They would go to the doctor's appointments with me, and they have a way of kind of understanding like mental health issues and how it goes along with addiction, because a lot of people in our family have dealt with that, and I think they're just really kind and caring people. Not to say that people that are kind and caring like don't act this way or can't be nice. I don't know. But I just, I'm really grateful that they supported me through all of this, like didn't kick me out. They were like, okay, if you need help, that's understandable. We knew something was wrong. Now it's time to help you get help. So I'm really lucky and grateful.
Yeah. So we got 5 people here. We have 5 very different approaches, 5 very different families who treated this very differently. It's really interesting. It's just in our small room right here. So you can imagine it runs the gamut. It's as different and unique as we are.
Dynamics.
Yeah. It's all
the dynamics.
Yeah. It's interesting to see. And it is interesting to see who wants to reconnect, who does reconnect, how this works, how the family comes back together, if they do, and sometimes they don't. And, and there's a lot that goes on in there. I mean, and that's part of it too. The way we grew up, our family dynamic certainly has an effect on us, early on. And I don't know if that pushes some of us into that addictive behavior or not. I mean, I haven't really explored it that deeply, but in my case, I think it was more about, I did because I could. I mean, nobody was stopping me, I mean, I was taking drugs at 12 years old, and they knew it too. They knew it. I mean, my parents knew it, but they chose to ignore it. That was the way they handled it. And that's okay. It's not anybody's job to get me sober. It's my job. right? Nobody can do that for me.
Right.
You can plot me in a rehab for as long as you want, but if I don't want to be sober, guess what? When I come out of there, I'm going right back to what I was doing. And that happens every day of the week. Go ahead, Amy.
What I was going to say was, I wanted to ask y'all, does it bother you if someone asks you, like, just say you're going to the store or something, and they say, are you going to get drugs? I'm talking about at this point in your recovery, at this point.
Well, I think you want me to speak to that? I think I have an opinion on it. I was going to say, I think that at this point, the people in my life have built enough trust up for me that they know that that's not going to happen. However, there is the odd person here or there that knew me then that, we hadn't really talked much up until this point. And they do wonder, like they haven't built that trust up for me yet. So every now and then I get that kind of reaction, but yeah, it's just about trying to build up a trust relationship. And there's also the aspect of, it's always going to be in the back of your head. For the rest of our lives, probably it's going to be back there somewhere knocking around. I could just go out there and do this or do that, but you keep reminding yourself, like, I remember how absolutely miserable it was to be in that position. I don't want that anymore. So people probably know that it's in the back of your head, as it is with every addict. And they probably worried for that reason, I would guess.
Well, I've been with my husband. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was just going to say, we're never cured, and that's, it's a day at a time. It's a daily routine.
Right, but I've been with my husband now for, let's just say, 9 years, almost the whole 10 years of my recovery. And he asks me that all the time, and it drives me insane, and I can't help it. I get defensive. I can't help it because I've worked so hard and changed so much, Owen's speaker went out, I think.
It's okay. Keep going.
And,
right.
I just worked so hard for this, and I get tired of being like, I don't know.
Personally, I think it's valid to get defensive if someone is asking that all the time after, I think
after I've tried to show, I've not been untrustworthy.
I think that's totally like understandable to get angry or not even understand why they would say something like that, but it's hard to kind of be understanding towards that.
Yeah.
After and that could be coming from some other place too, and not necessarily, the trust issues with you. It might not be about you at all. It's hard to say. John had something to say about that too.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that could be projection, but what I was going to say is I don't really have that happen to me anymore.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, it used to be a very prevalent thing when I was in Connecticut, closer to my family, and they kind of had more eyes on me. But when I moved out to New York City and moved in with my now wife, I mean, there was a point even when I was living with my wife. I mean, she would, when I wasn't using initially when I first got here, like, she would ask me that. But I guess, just through my actions now, I mean, I don't know. Like,
when's mine ever gonna, when will he ever trust me?
Who's to say? I don't know. Wish I could answer that.
I know.
Just keep doing what you're doing and, stay on the path,
I'm not doing anything wrong.
I know.
I'm not.
I mean, if you're doing the right thing and you have nothing to hide, then I wouldn't have a guilty conscience about it. And I would just, I mean, if it were me, I would just be like, all right, whatever. Like,
all right.
This person either doesn't understand or is trying to instigate something.
Right.
They're looking, they're trying, I mean, from what I can gather here, they're trying to get a response out of you, right? And
yeah.
I don't know it's definitely not. It's not. They're not looking for a positive one. I mean,
It's not healthy. It's
right?
not.
So,
It's not helping.
How long's it been? Like, how long you been clean?
10 years, going on 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I haven't, I didn't mess up or nothing, And so I don't know. I think it's his issues and it's his paranoia.
I tend to agree with you.
He's got issues he needs to deal with. He's got bad paranoia and stuff. And because I know in my heart,
that's all.
And like John said, he wants a response, and no response is the best response.
Well, I'll tell you what, it may be helpful to you to next time he says it, just sit down and, sit with him and say, what is it that I've done recently that's given you the impression that I might? I mean, and honestly,
that's
like,
good idea.
Don't do it to get a reaction out of him. Don't do it to upset him. Like, we're honestly trying to find an answer. What things in the past, say, year or 2 years, what is it that I did that gave you that impression? Because I can stop doing that thing if, but you have to meet him in the middle. Make sure you're not coming at this in a way that's intended to like get one over on him or get snapped back at him.
Right. I never want to do that because I hate confrontation. I hate arguing. I hate it.
Right, exactly. You got to walk into it calmly and nicely,
like you said,
try to get calmly. To the bottom of it.
Yeah, good idea. Thank you.
Makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Owen. Good idea.
Yeah,
very
no
good
problem.
idea. All right, guys. Well, guess what? I think we've come up on our hour here already, which seems like it's only been 15 minutes to me, but we have.
I've enjoyed this one.
It's time for our lightning gratitude round. So let's see who's going to go first. You know what, Amy? Why don't you go first?
I am grateful for you, Chris, always, because you're just a man. And anyway, I'm grateful for this group. I love you all. I'm proud of you all. We're an amazing group of people, and don't forget it this week. Have a great week, and I'm grateful for my family.
Thanks, Amy. John, you're up.
Yes, I am grateful for this group. Chris, thank you for hosting it. Owen, thank you for your story. I'm very grateful to be here to listen to it. And Amy, Audrey, I'm grateful for you too as well. I'm grateful for my loving and supporting wife. I'm grateful to be alive and sober today. And I'm grateful that I made the choice to stay sober today. Yeah. That's it for right now.
Nice. Audrey.
Yeah, I'm grateful for everyone here. John, AB, Owen, I'm grateful that you came in and shared your story. And Chris, always grateful that you set all of this up and continue to keep things moving with us. So, I'm just grateful for all these conversations and also grateful to be sober, looking forward to the future every day.
Nice. Owen, you're up.
Yeah, I think I'm grateful for my family, of course, and grateful for the group. And you know what else I'm grateful for? I'm grateful for the fact that I don't have to spend every single waking moment trying to find some way to get my hands on drugs or money to get drugs. I'm grateful for the fact that I can walk into an office building and not want to just off myself because I didn't want to see that place one more day of my life. I'm grateful that I can actually spend money on things that I can enjoy, like a movie or gas or absolutely anything at all. It is now my choice. It wasn't always. So I have to say I'm grateful for that.
Amazing. Thank you. Grateful for all of you. What a great hour we had today. Fantastic. Thanks, Owen, for bringing your story. I hope you become a regular here and, join us every other week. We're doing this bi-weekly now. We're not doing it weekly.
Okay.
But I'm grateful to all of you and your insights and your stories, your wisdom. Really amazing. And I'm grateful to be alive. And there's so many options. There's so many moments when it could have gone the other way. And so I'm very, very grateful to be here and living a productive life, being useful. I mean, what could be better than that? So on that note, I'll close it out. Thanks again, Owen. Thanks all of you guys for bringing your honesty to the group. And thanks to our listeners for joining us. And if anyone out there has any thoughts you'd like to share about anything you heard today, please send us a note through one of the various available channels. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Audible, Odyssey, whatever the hell we're on. Bunch of stuff. You can find us out there. And thanks again, everybody, for being here today, and have a great couple of weeks. See you soon.